Hello, everyone, and welcome to Popcorn for Breakfast. Today, we'll be chatting about yet another biopic, this time from the folklore living legend Bob Dylan in James Mangold's masterpiece, called A Complete Unknown. Let's chat.
This is Popcorn for Breakfast, presented by St. Louis Area Smoothie Kings. Now, here are your hosts, Cam and Kurt.
This is an interesting movie. I think it's especially interesting given where we're at with the awards conversation. Mm-hmm. And since we didn't get to see this until last Tuesday, and then we had some illnesses, that kept us from recording, we haven't gotten a chance to talk about it yet, but I think, too, the Globe noms came out before we had seen this.
Yes.
And so seeing how prominently it is featured in the awards discussion now, I feel like it kind of ramped up after the Globe's nominations came out, kind of like a confirmation of like, okay, so this one's going to play. And people have been speculating that for a while, but I'm interested to see how far this one goes. And I have a lot of thoughts on this movie, so I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, is it going to go the distance like Hercules, or is it going to fall flat like Babylon did not too long ago? Remember Babylon and Amsterdam, those two films?
Both Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
One Damien Chazelle, the other one David O. Russell.
Yeah.
So that's the film that has Damien Chazelle in director jail right now.
He is.
Because I think it was big and expensive and very long. And, half of people who saw it loved it.
Uh-huh.
And the other half despise it. Like they wish it didn't exist.
They did. I'm in the middle on it. I feel like
you're one of maybe 3 people on earth who are in the middle on that movie.
I did. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
Yeah,
actually, it's one of my glaring black marks on my resume.
That's okay. It's streaming somewhere right now. I know it is, but I was very indifferent on it. But now I want to watch it again because there's a weird thing that happens in the third act that I think was actually something very true told years before we were told about Diddy and all the other things. And that's a big pill to swallow if you've seen it.
Interesting.
It made me rethink that movie, that I need to go watch it again because I feel like it was trying to scream something about Holly weird to us.
I mean, I think it definitely, from what I understand about the movie, it's very much a pretty stark and harsh and graphic commentary on Hollywood in general. So there's probably lots of good nuggets there. If I know Damien Chazelle, who's my boy, which is the other reason why me not having seen Babylon is really bad.
A crime.
Because I love Damien Chazelle so much. I think who knows where this one will land. I don't know why we're talking about Babylon. It's but this one, why are we talking about Babylon?
Well, because
it didn't get nominated for any big awards, even though it was like...
It got nominated. It didn't win anything.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Babylon...
Okay. There we go. We're bringing it back together.
Yeah.
We're bringing it back together.
But we're talking about A Complete Unknown today.
It didn't get nominated for Best Picture, though. Not at the Oscars.
Not at the Oscars, but I think it got a lot of love at Golden Globes and then won nothing.
Yeah. So it's... In this, here's how we'll bring it back. Here we go. We're bringing it back. It's similar in that same way, and also that Babylon was like obviously an awards magnet. If anything is an awards magnet, and I know people hate that term, I even kind of hate that term. But if something was an awards magnet, this one is. I mean, it fills that slot. There we were talking about the sort of like based on true story slot. That's sort of different from the biopic slot because there's always like a slot for a biopic, your King Richards, your whatever, a King's Speech, any number of them. There's always a big biopic with some big performance that grabs a lot of awards. Mm-hmm. This fits in that slot. Then there's also the based on a true story slot that's like your Argos, your, usually war type things. I'm not going to put Dunkirk in there because Dunkirk's amazing or 1917, but you know what I mean? Like something that's based in a real, on a real story.
Like, this year would be 688 from Tyler Perry's Camp.
that one. Yes. No, I think this year would be like September 5.
Oh, okay.
Right. So there are these kind of, this will go here. That's what the voters kind of end up doing for the Oscars specifically. And so this is the one clear biopic awards magnet that's out there.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised to see that it's in the running, but I am excited to talk about it because I think there is a lot to talk about it through the context, like with that context in mind.
Well, let's talk about it then.
Yeah.
Let's do it. This is A Complete Unknown. This is a spoiler-free review. Cam and I got the opportunity to see this film before it airs to the public. Fantastic.
Yeah, it releases on Christmas Day.
Christmas Day.
It's always exciting. Christmas Day, Great movie watching holiday, by the way. I don't get to go to the theaters as much as I used to on Christmas Day because I have kids and lots of obligations and whatever.
I'm going to leave them at home with their toys this year, and I'm just going to sneak out.
I've done it before.
Like a rolling stone.
I haven't done it while they're awake. I've done it when they're asleep. And it's nice. It's beautiful. I love going. It's just, there's something very warm about it.
Pre-kids, didn't we all go see Social Network on Christmas Day? Oh, what an experience.
I used to go pre-kids, like before I was married, and either you and my sister were married or hadn't yet been married. We used to do it like every year.
Yeah.
Go to some movie in the evening on Christmas. And I miss that. I miss that because I think it's just so nice. And I feel like people there's these groups of people online who are like, it's weird to go to the movies by yourself, which it's not.
Nope.
And I want to enlighten those people, like those people who think it's weird to go to the movies by yourself. I want to enlighten them. And I also want to enlighten people who haven't been to the movies on Christmas because it is really a wonderful little tradition that you could be missing out on.
Listen, Christmas is all about Christmas magic, right? Sitting in a movie theater, watching magic happen on screen. It's the perfect fit.
It's exactly what Nicole Kidman was talking about.
We come to this place.
That's what she was talking about. All right, let's talk about this movie, though.
Let's do it. Again, this is from director James Mangold. So he's directed arguably most people's favorite superhero movie, Logan, Ford vs. Ferrari, Walk the Line, Identity, Girl Interrupted, Night and Day. That's a last one's a fun Tom Cruise action flick. All of these movies.
You're missing one.
What am I
that
missing?
I love.
Uh-oh. What I missed?
It's small. Not everybody loves it. 310 to Yuma.
I've not seen it.
No, it's good. It's good. Good Western.
I need to see it. It's on my watch list. The remake of the original, right? It's with Christian Bale. I believe,
Christian Bale.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So we're going to give awards to this show or to this film, right? We're going to talk about the Best Actor award it's going to go to, and the Oscar goes to the Scene Stealer, the Best Supporting Actor, the Showstopper, action or moment or theme that happened in the film that we were like, whoa, I got to talk about that tonight. And Director's Shoes, of course, where we tear this movie apart, limb by limb. We bring the director in and we bludgeon him. I'm just kidding. But we do say, hey, man, you could have done better. And then for our final thoughts on score, one quick note here, because this is so near and dear to my heart. With the buzz of Wicked in the air, one of the original cast members who played Fiyero, Mr. Norbert Leo Butz, is from St. Louis. And because we are in St. Louis, we got to see this movie with Norbert Leo Butz's family.
It's true.
I was starstruck by his family. They don't know.
I'm just laughing at you. I'm not laughing at them.
Oh, you can laugh at me.
No, yeah.
They don't know how big of a fan I am of Norbert. I sing his songs from his album from 2014, like all the time, like his kind of review album. He's coming to St. Louis this coming spring, like in February-ish. The winter, I guess you should say. And I'm just so pumped about seeing him. I'm very excited to talk about his family, and I wish I would have talked to them. It felt like royalty, St. Louis royalty was among us.
I mean, I think, that's the kind of thing that you and I are used to because we live in a very bustling, happening movie and entertainment town like St. Louis. Some people probably aren't used to that. So, I mean, like we walk into screenings, Norbert Leo Butz's family's there.
Let's be clear.
Maybe Taylor Momsen's family's there, St. Louis legend. So
Taylor Louderman, right? The original Regina George and the Mean Girls musical on Broadway.
Yeah.
So Norbert Leo Butz, his entire family is from St. Louis. They came, they supported him. He is in A Complete Unknown. He did a great job, and just got to put that at the top. That I want his family to know that we are here also.
Shout him out.
I love you all. I think you're fantastic.
Shout out Norbert.
Shout out Norbert. Big love, big love. Cam, you have the incredible power seat today, and you get to talk about, and the Oscar goes to first, the best actor of this film.
Yeah, and these are the days where I'm glad. Sometimes I'm weirdly glad that our podcast isn't ginormous because when I have to talk about Timothée Chalamet is the reason why I'm glad, because I fear his fans, and I think that he's been getting some great press recently, Kirk. You're just like, as a Chalamet hater, I'm proclaiming you that you're not self-proclaimed Chalamet hater, but you are one. You got to regroup because he's been getting a lot of good press. He's getting lots of silly videos on TikTok. He went on College Game Day, knows lots about football, very relatable guy. So yeah, it's a tough scene right now. And so I'm scared to speak poorly on Chalamet's name. So I won't. I'm going to pick him and the Oscar goes to. But I do have some critiques, and that's why I'm always a little bit scared. So Chalamet, of course, is he's playing Bob Dylan in this film. And for those of you who know anything or nothing about Bob Dylan, he was a unique guy with a very unique singing voice. The beauty of Bob Dylan, I think, as someone who didn't live through that era, that he was huge, but has listened to some of his music and has listened to the new Basement tapes and is a little bit familiar with music history. The appeal of him was more his songs and not him, not his lyrics and not his singing per se. He's got a unique singing voice. It's not necessarily what you would consider like a pure vocal. And it is his talking voice too. His speaking voice was similar. If you go back,
I don't know that it was.
Well, if you go back and listen to him talk, like he has a unique voice. So it's a difficult role to play because you have to emulate that in some way. And so Timothée Chalamet gives it his best try. Here's what I will say. That's my critique. I don't know that what he did was fully accurate to Bob Dylan. Just because because it is a very bold acting choice on his part in terms of how he chose to recreate his voice. He went about as far as you could go, I'd say, in drawing out this unique sound. And so I think he went too far with it to where it was a little bit too bold and a little too to where he didn't sound real a lot of the time. But it was consistent.
It was.
And that's the thing. It's like doing an impression of someone who was a real person can be extraordinarily difficult. And I don't necessarily think that you should go find somebody to do a movie who can do a spot on impression of somebody every single time. So what I look for more is consistency. I'm not necessarily looking for you to recreate it exactly the way it was. If you can, it's next level. It's impressive. But what I give Timothée Chalamet a lot of credit for in this movie is his the consistency of this performance and the sort of the level that he was at. I think in terms of playing a character, he was very much in character the entire time and very committed and very consistent. And so you weren't getting an uneven performance. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that has plagued Timothée Chalamet in the past is uneven performances, where it's like, just because you see it with young actors, not because he's a bad actor, but just because you see it with young actors that they overplay certain scenes. They have a hard time giving raw reactions to things. You talk about a lot like lived experience type things. He hasn't had a lot of that. And so it's hard for him to tap into it. I thought he did well here in terms of giving a nice level, consistent performance that wasn't too crazy. I do think the voice should have been dialed in a little bit more, but I'm also sitting here thinking like James Mangold is somebody who loves Bob Dylan. Maybe he was pushing him to go. I don't know what's happening behind the scenes. So that's part of the reason I'm not going to dock him for the voice specifically, but the consistency of it is what impressed me. And so that's why he gets my Oscar, because I think it was level of difficulty was very hard on this role. And I'm always going to give you extra points if the level of difficulty is hard. Mm-hmm. And B, I thought he was extremely consistent.
Yep. As the proclaimed Timothée Chalamet hater, I feel like I have to speak to this because he's definitely not on either of my lists here. I did go back and watch some interviews of Mr. Bob Dylan, and I do not see the nasally voice as his regular voice.
It's not as nasally. No, it's gruff.
But it's definitely not, hey guys, it's not
as
one
nasally.
of the Beatles is what he kind of sounded like sometimes. And I'm like, hey man, you just gotta calm down. I thought for film, the singing voice for film was acceptable. I
agree. I agree. Yeah.
I was fine with that. But I will say that when he was singing at times, he was completely dead in the eyes. What happened is that if you go back and look at a couple of performances, or if you are a Bob Dylan fan, you can see that Bob Dylan is a musician first, singer second, which makes sense why his vocal is so bizarre, that he was just trying to figure it out, and he was just trying to tell the stories that he wanted to tell.
He's a songwriter-singer, not a singer-songwriter.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so when he's singing and he's playing his music, you can see that he's locked in. He's like the actual Bob Dylan. He's locked in. He's focused. He's excited. He's passionate. But then when you see Timothée Chalamet sing, it's like his face is just dead and nothing's happening, except he is playing the guitar very well. I'm assuming he was playing for real. It was very impressive.
I mean,
Looked real.
I would say I do play some instruments. I don't play the guitar. It looked very real.
It looked very real.
If they somehow faked it, I'd be like, what's the technology here? Because
Right.
I'd be blown away.
That part's impressive. Wasn't impressed with him as Bob Dylan. Was impressed with him as Bob Dylan when he was singing, but it was a little off. I will say, of my Timothée Chalamet performances, this is his best of all of them. I will say that very easily, but that's a low bar to clear.
Better than Dune Part 2?
I take that back. Dune Part 2 is
Dune
better.
Part 2 is better, I think. See, and that's the other thing is, like, even though I'm giving him my award, I would not nominate him for Best Actor this year.
Never. Actually,
I thought about it after.
no years.
Well, sure. Like, for this performance, doesn't clear the bar any year. But like, I thought about performances that I thought would get nominated, and I have 5 or 6 already that I know I liked better than this.
That will squash him.
Yeah. But he will get nominated, I think, which is dumb, but
Shouldn't happen. And the Oscar goes to, for me, Miss Monica Barbaro.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Who is she? Where did she come from? I looked at her filmography. I've already forgotten. Sorry, Monica.
Top Gun Maverick.
Top Gun Maverick.
She was Phoenix, and she was really good in that too.
Yes. I mean, this girl, she plays real life musician and artist Joan
Baez.
Thank you very much. Oh my goodness. Talk about someone who nails a singing voice and who has just all of the talent and gifts in the world. When she sings, it's so effortless that you think that that she's in the room with you. Like, it supersedes any kind of recording technology. It truly felt like she was standing at the front of the theater, playing her guitar and singing to the audience. It was absolutely unreal. I was mesmerized. I was absolutely mesmerized. And on top of that, every scene she came to play. She came to eat. She devoured those acting scenes. She, in my opinion, did better than when she was in any scene, but especially she won. As some things are a singing contest when you're singing against each other.
Yeah.
She sang better than Timothée, and she acted better than him. She was incredible, and I can't wait to see anything else she's in. I'm absolutely blown away. I'm upset that I didn't know that she existed, really, like that she wasn't on the forefront of my mind.
Yeah.
And this is someone definitely to watch, Monica Barbaro.
Yeah, I thought she was electric. I would have been right there behind you to stand up and give you Scene Stealer if you hadn't picked her. I had a feeling you would, because she is, I mean, she does steal scenes. Like, she's crushing it this whole movie. And I think too, one of my biggest criticisms of this movie, and I won't talk about it later, I'll talk about it now because it's only one of them, it's not the biggest one, is that there's so much time spent on lingering shots of people reacting to Bob Dylan while he's performing, because there's just a lot of performances in this movie in general. And she's the only one who is just killing it the whole time.
Yes.
You know, like from a reaction acting perspective. When they show other people on some of these lingering shots, you're like, okay, this is cringy. Like, this is getting a little bad.
This is Skylar Astin, Pitch Perfect
finale.
finale.
Yeah. But with her, like, it feels real. It enhances the scene. She came to play, man. She was absolutely crushing in this movie.
I think it means so much more when they're lingering watching her watch Bob Dylan, is because she has so much more of a complicated relationship.
There's a
with
lot
him.
more there.
You show Ed Norton. Ed Norton's his manager, essentially, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, cool.
Right.
Like, lovey-dovey eyes that he's making money, right? And anyone else is just like, okay, neat. Hers is the one that matters. But I love cringeworthy is exactly right.
Yep.
Cam, tell us about your scene stealer for this film.
Yeah. I'm going back to old reliable. I'm going to Ed Norton.
Okay.
For this one as Pete Seeger. I really wanted it to be Elle Fanning. So we'll see if you talk about Elle Fanning, and if not, we'll figure something out so I can give my thoughts there. But it wasn't. There are reasons why. Pete Seeger, though, Ed Norton as this character. Again, I don't want to belabor the point too much. Like, the commitment to the character is insane. He's just an unbelievably good actor who is going to go to an extreme level of detail to get the performance that he needs to give for any character that he's cast as. It's just always been the case. It's why he's one of the best. And this role is funny. This character is a funny guy. He's like a very wholesome guy, very moral guy. He's going to do what he feels is right. But he also is just an overwhelmingly kind guy who doesn't want to be involved in conflict with anybody ever. It's just he's a total pacifist, but not in a bad way. Like he just is a kind, free loving kind of guy. And I just love how Ed Norton chose to play this character. And I knew literally nothing about Pete Seeger before this movie.
Same.
And his performance had me interested to be like, who was this guy? Like, what an interesting character this was. And I just loved it. I thought he was great.
Yeah, he's almost like Mr. Rogers' unknown brother.
Yeah. You're like, man, same vibe as like with Mr. Rogers. You're like, I would like to have him around to, lift my spirits. Edward Norton is Pete Seeger, same thing. You're like, yeah, like Woody Guthrie's in the hospital for, Scoot McNairy's playing Woody Guthrie and he's in the hospital for, a good portion of this movie, if not all of it. And you're like, man, I'd like to have that guy in my hospital room, whenever I'm feeling not great. It's just
Mr. Optimism through
I know.
and through.
It's
absolutely
beautiful.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Elle Fanning because that is absolutely my choice for Scene Stealer. Elle Fanning, Dakota Fanning's younger sister, who has cleared that bar a long time ago. I mean, she is just killing it out here.
Yeah, she is.
She has been in Hulu series The Great, which I never watched, but she made her really big debut in J.J. Abrams when he made films.
Super 8.
Super 8, yeah.
Good one.
She just continues to take on roles and create fully formed characters. The moment that we meet her, she is not just the romantic interest. She is. She has so much dimension to her, so much depth to her. We see that in every single scene. We learn something new about Elle Fanning's character, her character name is Sylvia Russo. Every single scene, every time she comes, something new happens, and that's why she's so exciting to watch, and almost sometimes one would say dangerous to watch because you don't know what her character is motivated by, if she's going to side and agree with the chaos that Bob Dylan brings to the table, and unpredictability there. But that's why these two people probably gravitated towards each other, because you could not predict what they were going to do or say next. And that's how she played this. And that's why I loved her performance, Elle Fanning.
Love it. Yeah. I wanted it to be Elle Fanning for me. And I do think she did great with what she had, but it's what she had that I had issues with at times. I felt like at times her dialogue was not as well written, and I think that it's just a kind of a function of the character, because she's always acting opposite Timothée Chalamet's Bob Dylan, who is just this sort of apathetic sort of character who just is kind of like in his own world doing his own thing, and that's fine. That's true to supposedly true to life for who Bob Dylan was, but because of that, she's always laying down lots of exposition. She's always laying down lines that are, supposed to be profound. Sometimes they think the writers thought it was a little more profound than it actually is. It's just, I had more issues with the writing than with her character, but I thought I couldn't fault her for anything.
Yeah.
It's just that I wish they would have done better by that character, though. To your point, like, there are really good moments.
Mm-hmm. So. Excellent. How about quick honorable mentions for acting?
Okay.
Norbert Leo Butz. Obvi.
Yeah, Obvi, he was great.
And Boyd Holbrook, who plays Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Unbelievable Johnny Cash. Yeah. Very fun.
I did not even know it was him until after the film.
Yeah, super good.
You got any honorable mentions?
No, that's really it.
Okay.
That's really it.
That's beautiful. How about a showstopper, Cam?
Yeah, showstopper. I think it's going to be, I've kind of, even in my head right now, I'm still kind of ping-ponging around a few things, but I think it is sort of the aura of Bob Dylan that I thought they captured really well. I wish they had gone, I wish James Mangold had gone into more detail about why that aura exists.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my big gripes is like, okay, why though? Like, I get it. All these people are drawn to him, and presumably it's because the songs he's writing are great, but give us some more context. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit, but the way that they portrayed the superstar aura and portrayed the magnitude of his being, I thought was really well done. I don't know that everything that about how they chose to portray the folk scene in the 1970s or whatever, like late 60s, early 70s into the, I guess by the end of this, we're like close to the 80s. I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention to timelines, but the Bob Dylan character and showing that this is somebody of magnitude. He did it with a real panache. I think James Mangold did. He just understood how big this was and how to make it feel that way without resorting to anything cheap that wouldn't feel authentic. You know, I'm not really saying anything right now, but this is, it's hard to quantify.
I like
it's
listening.
like, it's sort of an intangible thing, but I think he did a lot of little things to make it feel like, to help the audience commit to, oh, I do believe that this is Bob Dylan, but to also just help you understand the context of the time and how, what it was like for Bob Dylan during his comeuppance. You know, I just thought that was well done. So there was a lot of things that were not said, but were just kind of shown to show you that, like, this is the guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. To give the aura, no explanation of the aura, but the aura is there and people are in his orbit for sure.
Yeah. And he didn't do too much with it. You know, like I think a lot of these movies about big movie stars, they go, or like movie or music stars, they go too far with trying to show like, look how massively popular they are. James Mangold just sprinkled in little things to show like, here's his level of popularity and aura right now. Here's how he is not now. So that by the time you get to the climax of the film, you're like, this is big, you know, this is the guy. So it's well done on that front.
That's true. That's true. I'm going to have to go with pretty simple. There's a duet that happens with Timothée Chalamet, and
I like how you say his name like that every time.
Thank you. Thank you. I won't sing the song that I was like making up about him that I thought I was going to sing on the podcast. But
no.
You know, I recorded it and in a voice memo, and I can't find it. It got deleted by accident.
That's a shame.
But him and Monica Barbaro, I don't even know what song they're singing, but they're singing a duet on the stage, and it's at a moment where there is friction between these two characters, and they start to sing, and any friction, any issues that they were having before they started singing and performing just goes away. And you see both of them, they were like agitated with each other. And then all of a sudden they don't care. They're just doing everything they love, is just pouring their heart and their time and their energy with each other into singing this song, because they've got a whole crowd of like 10,000 people or whatever it is. And I just love that moment. It just all dissipates. And that friction comes back pretty quickly as soon as the song ends. But for that moment, for that brief period of time, it doesn't matter, because whatever conflict was happening, there are bigger things happening outside of just the two of them. And they represent that to all those people out there. So I loved how that was showcased. I thought it was really, really wonderful and exciting. And I believed that friction, you could see it kind of slip away from them, and I felt it too.
Love that.
How about we destroy James Mangold? Are you ready for this?
I am ready. I have some complaints. I have some bones to pick about this movie.
Let's go with our director's shoes, Cam.
I think the biggest thing about this one is that this movie didn't know what it wanted to be. And I think I'm glad you brought up the scene where the music kind of melts away all the troubles of what's happening. I think for the beginning of this movie, I was fully convinced that this movie was sort of going to be about the language of music and how, you know, this is the 60s and 70s. Sorry, I think I said 80s earlier, 60s and 70s. Because it's like, you know, it's like the whole like Kennedy situation into the Cold War, into, you know, it's a very tumultuous time. There's civil rights going on. There's all these things going on. It's a big moving and shaking time in the United States, and that's why folk music was important, and that's why Bob Dylan was important. That I thought was going to be the story of the movie, because again, you go back and you listen to Bob Dylan now, you go, this guy's not an elite singer, he's not somebody who has this iconic sound, but it was his music, it was his lyrics and the way that he wrote and the way that he conveyed thoughts and opinions of the people at the time that made him so huge. And for large chunks for really the first good portion of this movie, I was like, oh, that's where they're going to go. And that's going to finish beautifully. There's just so much there to dig into, and you can tell a really beautiful story with it. And they dabbled with it a lot. They're like showing you some of the things that are going on, but they don't commit to it. And then by the end of the movie, it's something totally different they've decided to commit to. The third act sort of comes out of left field, and you're like, really, this is what is the climax of your film? You want to focus on this specific thing? Crazy. Crazy to me. When clearly the story to me was like, here's Bob Dylan. He writes amazing songs that convey how people feel. Tell me about those songs. Tell me what's in them. Like, tell me about his process. Tell me what he is seeing and feeling. And they tried to show, like, here are the things that are going on in the world. But we never get, like, Bob Dylan reacting to that stuff. we never get him being like, okay, and you know, talking about his writing process or showing his writing process. It's always just like he picks up the guitar and starts playing a song and singing. It's not like there needed to be more talking about that. And the beginning of the movie starts with this, you know, sort of scene of Pete Seeger in court talking about the lyrics to one of his songs. And to that for me was like, okay, here is your opening paragraph about the language of music and why it's important, why folk music was so important during this time in the country. So show me how Bob Dylan filled that void for everybody. That's the reason for the aura. That's the reason for all this stuff. It's not the songs themselves. It's how did he do it? How did he come up with it? What was his process? And I don't feel like we got enough of that at all. Like they would show him writing, but they didn't show him talking about it. They didn't show him talking about like how he, you know, there's one bit that I can remember where him and Joan Baez are talking about it. And she says something about like the way that he writes. And he's like, you think you're like trying too hard to write a song. That's the only bit we get about his process at all. And I'm like, no, that should be the crux of the story. How he was this genius who was able to translate concepts into this music to touch everybody. And it makes me so angry that they decided not to do that with the movie, really, and to focus on something in the third act that I'm not going to talk about because I want to remain spoiler free. That's just totally unrelated, in my opinion. So it's just a mess. And I think part of the reason is that James Mangold loves this subject matter so much that he thought that it just spoke for itself. And I don't think it does. And whenever he was writing dialogue or whenever he was writing the screenplay and talking about, oh, I want to focus, linger on this person watching Bob Dylan, he thought it was so much more profound than it actually was. And so what he ended up with was something that just feels kind of empty and cringe at times because you're like, why should I care how she looks at this guy or he looks at him or whatever? Like, it's over the top. It's melodramatic. And so it just didn't work.
That was one of the most beautifully articulate ways to talk about a movie I've ever heard, Cameron.
Thank you. It didn't feel articulate. I'm still like, I've got the virus brain going on, and so I'm having trouble gathering my thoughts. No, but I hate
articulate
when a movie doesn't know what it is.
It didn't know.
Or what it should be.
It really didn't know at all. I'm in a similar spot with you. This the thing that happens in the third act should have happened in the first
Correct.
act.
Yes.
The stakes aren't big enough for a third act conflict, so that it was sadly misplaced. I'm very similar to you. The movie feels like there are vignettes of Bob Dylan's career.
Yes.
And it doesn't always feel that they're placed in the correct timeline. Like when I replay the movie in my head, I think there's a little bit of movement of when that happens. You're absolutely right. When we talk about big cultural moments, he wrote songs because of those things. So we get hit with things like one of my favorite moments of history, the Cuba Missile Crisis, and everything with Kennedy that comes into play with this film. Like there is so much fear that was into the American public. And we're hit with the scene where when they're seeing what's happening, what's unfolding with the Cuban Missile Crisis, where one character who's not Bob Dylan is kind of like talking it out, vocalizing it, and we see Bob Dylan not even looking at the TV.
He's doing nothing.
As if he's not even on the same planet.
Right.
Which he can't write a song about the Cuban Missile Crisis or reflecting on the fear of America and optimism and hope toward America in the world if he's not paying attention.
Right.
He very much in real life was paying attention, even though he wasn't vocalizing it. You could
100%.
You could convey this in so many different ways. It was just off the table.
They're not showing us his opinions at all.
Right. He's silent.
It's like he obviously has them.
Right.
So like we see him reacting to this thing. We see him not reacting to this thing.
Not reacting.
Like same with the civil rights stuff, whatever. He goes to this one civil rights thing because Sylvie is like, oh, I help these people out.
Yep.
And so he's seeing it, but we're not seeing it through the context of Bob Dylan. We're not seeing it how he's seeing it.
Right.
And so it's like, he sees all this stuff, and then he writes a song where he's like, "Their bombs and their guns," and I'm like, okay, so why did he write that? Like,
did you just say there's bombs and there's guns?
No, he literally says that, and I'm like, why? Like, why did he write it though? What's he feeling?
Yep,
we don't get that.
Well, there's bombs and there's guns. I think
dude,
that
it
tells
drives
it, right?
me crazy.
basically everything is like just cut and pasted together out of a labor of love from what obviously affected James Mangold as a creative artist.
Yeah.
But it's not a labor of careful creative precision, which is what you need when you're trying to say, this is why I love this artist. This is why everyone loved him as a musician. This is how he changed people's lives. You have to tell us that story versus this blob of things that he happened, but you don't get into the psyche of it. I mean, that is the linchpin on which biopics are so good and so interesting to watch over and over and over again. Why they keep being made, because we want to know inside the psyche of that person's mind. Why were they a genius, or how did they react to things that made them then create things that we all love and quote and sing and watch and imagine and discuss on podcasts today? And we didn't get that, Mr. James Mangold.
Absolutely not.
Now we're just depressed. I just don't know where we go from here.
Well, we go to final thoughts and scores, and I'll kick us off.
Let's do it.
So yeah, I think you've got here's what you've got with this movie. I like that you use the word vignettes, first of all, because it's a very fancy word, and second of all, because it's very accurate to what this movie provides, which is little snippets of cool things that happened that are fun to see in a movie. Like, this is essentially a concert film. I mean, there's so many performances in this movie. It's crazy. It's like, that's the majority of the movie. It's just like him singing songs. And like, maybe for some people that's cool, but what you don't get, so you get, and again, you get the performances, you get some cool like musical moments, you get some cool period production design and things like that. You get all those things. It checks those boxes. You don't get a story though. You don't get a consistent story. And there was one there begging to be told. And I think that it was there at some point during this creative process and got lost in the sauce of like, oh, I want to talk about that though, but I want to talk about that. And it just kind of didn't come together in any coherent, cohesive way. And that for me is going to dock you some points, because you just can't mess up the story here, particularly with this film about this person. And it's exactly what you said. You've got a guy here who clearly loves Bob Dylan and believes that the existence of Bob Dylan speaks for itself. Well, it doesn't. For people like you and me and anybody who was born in the 80s or later, it doesn't speak for itself. You have to tell us, why did this matter? We didn't live through the Bay of Pigs. We didn't live through the Cuban Missile Crisis. We didn't live through the Cold War. We didn't. We know about it from history, but take us there. Tell us why it mattered. And you failed, James Mangold. You failed at doing that, and it makes this thing kind of a mess. So it's like, this is going to get nominated for awards because it looks the part for people who are not paying attention, but look closer and you'll see that this thing doesn't work. Maybe A Complete Unknown was the correct title for this movie because they didn't know what they wanted to do with it.
Burn.
Maybe that's the reason. Maybe that was intentional. They were like, let's just call it A Complete Unknown. It's a lyric from one of his movies and we don't know what the heck this thing is. I don't know. So yeah, I've agonized over this score because it's a nice to look at movie for the most part. It doesn't look like amazing. I mean, for my money, I like the way the Coen brothers depicted the sort of like folk boom in Inside Llewyn Davis better than how it was portrayed here. So I'll take that 9 times out of 10 over this one. But it doesn't look bad. And I think that there's a lot of interesting things in here and historical nuggets and whatever. But I'm giving it a 5.5 out of 10. Yeah. Can't go higher than that.
Yeah, that's generous. I mean, listen to these movies again. Logan, Ford versus Ferrari, Walk the Line. He's done this era.
He's done this era. He's done a musical biopic before.
Yes.
Yeah. Crazy.
Identity, Girl Interrupted, Night and Day. What's the one I missed? 310 to Yuma. I mean, these are films that will live on forever and be
Indiana
rewatched.
Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
That one.
I had to throw that in there.
That one, no. Dude, that thing is on sale at Target as one of the last DVDs living, and it's $40 still.
Ew, what?
I know.
On sale?
On sale, on clearance. Like, they got rid of all of their physical DVDs. It's one of the last. It's like that, Wish, and I think the Marvels. It's $35, $40.
Amazing.
Anyways, James Mangold, you have given us incredible pieces of art. As we know, no one is perfect. No one is infallible. This is your second strike. Definitely Indiana Jones 5 was worse than this, but I'll give you that. But this did not have the sauce. I think that it wasn't even what I was assuming that it was going to be going into it. I was assuming it was going to be Timothée Chalamet's fault. It was not his fault that this movie will not be successful. It's not his fault that it'll get nominated but win no awards. It's your fault, Mr. Mangold, and we hope you do better. We know you'll do better. This was just this was a misstep, and with such an incredible filmography, I think we can forgive it, honestly. But we will still rate it accurately. This is a 4.8 out of 10 kernels on my book today.
Good score. And it's very boring.
Oh.
We didn't say that because it's just kind of like, it's boring. It's 2 hours and 21 minutes, and it's a slow 2 hours and 21 minutes.
Yeah. I mean,
by the end, I was convinced it was 3.5 hours long. I really was. I was like, how long have we been here? Is it daytime outside?
It was a long time. And it hurts for me to say this because, again, starstruck by the Norbert Leo Butts' family being one row behind me. Okay.
It wasn't Norbert's fault, though.
It was not Norbert's fault, nor did Norbert have a premier role in this film. He had a good role. They even make a joke that Bob Dylan's walking away and Norbert is yelling at him and he's like, "Hey, you gotta do this. You gotta perform." And Bob Dylan, Timothée Chalamet says, "You sing it then." I'm like, he can.
He would crush it.
He can sing it so well. Yeah. And I loved that line is in this movie. So I'm torn. I'm so torn. I'm so sad that this movie did not hold up for me.
Word.
Well, award season, ladies and gents. We got lots of movies that we have released. I think we released 4, maybe 5 episodes last month, or between the last 30 days, I should say. We've got this. We've got Nosferatu. We've got so many things coming your way. Make sure you like, subscribe, check out our website at popcorn4breakfast.com. Check us out on PFB_podcast on all the different socials, on TikTok, on X, on Facebook. We're everywhere. And we look forward to seeing you and chatting with you about movies this season. Cam, you got anything else?
No, we, maybe we should have talked about Sonic 3.
You just said no, and then you added something.
I know. I'm sorry. I was going to say that we're not reviewing Sonic 3.
Yeah.
So
that's not coming.
I can give you my thoughts on Sonic 3 if you want them. You can just hit me up. But that's not coming. But we do have Nosferatu, The Brutalist, and more coming your way very soon.
Yeah, hit us up in Discord if you want to chat about Cam's specific thoughts on Sonic 3. I wasn't able to make that showing, but he was, and he's going to tell you all about it. Check us out anywhere. Like, subscribe, comment. We love you all. Talk to you soon.
Peace.